The silent arrival, the galaxy was not silent that day. It shook with engines, with voices of commanders, with the weight of thousands of warships that had gathered for one reason. They wanted to end the human race. To them, humans were still young, still small, still weak compared to the empires that had ruled the stars for thousands of years. The gathering fleets believed it would be quick. They believed it would be simple. Alien admirals sat in massive command halls, their eyes fixed on glowing maps that showed the battlefield. Endless icons filled the screen. Whole armadas stretched across space, moving in perfect formation. The stars themselves looked drowned by the lights of weapons and war machines. Every admiral smiled. Victory seemed already written. Then the humans arrived. Not many, not fleets, not hundreds of ships, not even dozens. Only one. A single human ship entered the battlefield. Slowly, calmly, with no escort. The scanners of the alien fleets confirmed it again and again. There was no mistake. Only one human vessel had come to face the greatest armada the galaxy had ever assembled. The laughter began. On one ship, a reptilian commander struck his tail against the floor in amusement. On another, insectoid generals clicked their mandibles, mocking what they saw as human arrogance. The broadcast spread across the fleets. Every species that had gathered to destroy Earth repeated the same joke. A lone ship? It was madness. But beneath the laughter there was unease. No one could understand why the humans would send just one vessel. They were reckless, yes. They were daring, yes. But even humans knew the difference between courage and suicide. Yet, the human ship held its course. No hesitation, no sign of fear. It advanced alone, its engines humming like the slow heartbeat of a predator. The alien admirals tried to explain it. Perhaps it was a mistake. Perhaps this was a scout that had wandered into the wrong system. Perhaps humans had grown desperate and had no other ships left. The possibilities were discussed, but none of them brought comfort. Because in the long history of the galaxy, humans had never moved without reason. The fleets tightened their lines. Orders were shouted. Weapons charged. Thousands of barrels aimed at the lone intruder. It would be destroyed in seconds. It would burn before it even fired. That was the plan. That was the expectation. But the human ship did not fire. It simply stood in the void, facing the countless fleets before it. Silent. Still. Like a shadow waiting for something unseen. Its hull was black, darker than the space around it. Its lights glowed faintly, pulsing with a rhythm that unsettled the commanders watching it. It was not afraid. It was not moving away. It was waiting. Every second that passed made the unease grow stronger. The admirals remembered the stories whispered in dark corners of the galaxy. Stories of humans who turned hopeless battles into victories. Stories of human soldiers who fought even when their bones were broken and their blood was gone. Stories of human ships that vanished into the dark and returned stronger than before. They were called reckless. They were called insane. But in those whispers, they were also called unstoppable. Now here stood one human ship, and the galaxy felt that fear again. On the flagship of the insectoid swarm, General Thrix raised his voice. Destroy it. End this foolishness. But another, Commander, an old reptilian with scars across his scales, shook his head slowly. Wait, watch, they are humans, they never come empty-handed. The order to fire was delayed, and in that delay the silence grew louder. The human ship floated forward, closer and closer to the center of the armada. It showed no weapons. It sent no transmissions. It simply advanced with the calm of something that knew what was coming. Something that had no fear of what waited ahead. The galaxy had expected a storm of fire and light, a battle that would echo through history. Instead, it was met with silence. And in that silence, commanders shifted in their seats. Pilots gripped their controls tighter. Soldiers in barracks whispered questions that had no answers. What was this ship? Why was it alone? Why was it not afraid? The stars watched as the lone vessel moved into place. And for the first time in countless years, the galaxy trembled not from war but from uncertainty. Because the humans had arrived. and they had brought silence with them. The first shock. The silence did not last forever. The galaxy was impatient. Admirals wanted proof. Soldiers wanted glory, and so the order finally came. Fire. Thousands of warships obeyed at once. The void lit up as beams of plasma and rivers of missiles filled the darkness. The attack was so vast that the light drowned the stars. From every side, energy storms closed in on the lone human vessel. No ship in history could have survived such a storm. Even the strongest shields, even the most advanced armor would have shattered. The admirals leaned back, satisfied. Victory was certain. The lone human ship would be erased before the echoes of their command faded. But then the light cleared, and the ship was still there. Untouched. Calm. Waiting. Confusion spread through the fleets. Commanders shouted at their crews. Technicians checked their scanners again and again, believing there must be some mistake. But the truth was undeniable. Every weapon had struck. Every missile had hit. And yet the human ship stood without a single scar. Its black hull shimmered with a faint glow as if space itself had bent around it. The laughter was gone now. Another wave of fire was ordered, this time even stronger, even brighter. Cannons thundered, railguns roared. The galaxy unleashed its full power. Planets in nearby systems shook under the force of the weapons. The battlefield became a storm, and when the storm ended, the result was the same. The human ship floated in silence, calm as ever. On the flagship of the reptilian fleet, Admiral Vorash hissed in disbelief. Impossible. No material can withstand that. No shield can bend like that. On another command bridge, a crystalline captain whispered to herself, "It is not shields. It is something else, something we do not understand." The realization spread like wildfire. Whatever the humans had brought into this battle, it was not ordinary. It was not even known to the galaxy. It was something new, something terrifying. Then, without warning, the human ship moved. It was not fast. It was not loud. But its movement was different. It cut through space in ways that made no sense. One moment it was in the center of the battlefield, surrounded by countless fleets. The next, it had slipped between formations as if the laws of motion no longer applied. Alien pilots screamed as their scanners lost track of it. Ships collided trying to adjust. Chaos spread. And then the first alien squadron vanished. Not destroyed, not broken. Vanished. 1 second they were there, rows of fighters locked on the human vessel. The next they were gone, erased without light, without sound. The battlefield swallowed them whole. Panic filled the comm channels. What happened? Where did they go? No one had an answer. The human ship appeared again, silent as ever, its black hull glowing faintly. Then another squadron disappeared. Dozens of ships blinked out of existence, gone as if they had never been built. The admirals realized the truth too late. The human vessel was not firing weapons. It was rewriting reality. The galaxy had always believed in limits. Physics was a cage. Energy was bound by rules. But humans had found a way to break those rules. Their lone ship was not just a machine. It was something else. Something that even the oldest empires could not explain. Terror spread through the fleets. Soldiers who had mocked the lone ship now whispered prayers. Pilots begged their commanders for retreat. The admirals shouted for discipline, but their voices shook, because deep inside, they all knew the same thing. The first shock was here, and it was only the beginning. Secrets of the human ship, the admirals gathered in their command chambers. Their fleets had fired with the strength of entire worlds. Their weapons had burned brighter than suns. Yet the lone human ship had survived without a scratch. No one could explain it, no one could accept it. "Scan it again," ordered Admiral Vorash, his reptilian voice sharp with frustration. "I want every reading, every pulse, every fragment of data." The scanners obeyed. Beams of light swept across the black vessel. Energy waves bounced against its surface. Strange numbers filled alien screens. At first, the readings made no sense. Then they began to terrify. The ship's hull was not made of metal. It was not crystal, not energy, not anything known to the galaxy. It was something deeper, older. The scans showed layers folding into layers, like doors leading into infinity. The more they looked, the less they understood. On the crystalline flagship, Captain Ilara whispered, "It bends space. It bends time. That is why our weapons fail." Another officer argued, "No, it is alive. Look at the pulse. It breathes. The ship is not a machine. It is something else." The whispers spread. Across the fleets, soldiers listened in silence. Rumors flew faster than missiles. Some said the humans had built the ship using technology stolen from dead civilizations. Others said they had found it buried beneath their world, sleeping for millions of years. And some believed the darkest tale, that humans had fused themselves with the void itself, creating a weapon that was part flesh, part machine, part nightmare. The fear grew heavier with each theory. Then the human ship revealed its secret. Without warning, its black surface rippled. Symbols glowed faintly across its hull, marks no alien had ever seen before. They were not written in any galactic language. They were old, older than stars. They burned with a light that seemed to come from another reality. And then the message came, not through sound, not through transmission, but directly into the minds of every commander. A voice, human yet not, filled their skulls. Cold, calm. "You do not understand us. You never have. You think we are fragile. You think we are late to the stars. But humanity does not follow your laws. Humanity rewrites them." The admirals staggered. Some screamed. Some clawed at their heads. The voice was everywhere, inside and outside, impossible to block. One insectoid general slammed his claws into the floor. "It speaks inside my mind. Nothing should have this power." But the voice continued. "This is only one of us. One ship, one hand raised. You believe in numbers. You believe in strength. You have gathered countless fleets. And yet here we stand, untouched." The fleets tried to fight the fear. Orders were given. Weapons were prepared again. But hesitation spread faster than courage. For the first time, the galaxy looked at humans not as prey, not as rivals, but as something else. On the edge of the battlefield, a small alien captain whispered to his crew, "This is not war. This is judgment." The ship moved again. Space twisted around it. Stars bent like reflections in water. And in that bending, the galaxy saw glimpses, images of burning fleets, of shattered empires, of futures where humanity walked across the stars like giants. The visions lasted only seconds, but they left scars. Every admiral knew it then. The human ship was not just a weapon. It was a warning they could no longer ignore. The turning point, the battlefield, was no longer filled with laughter. It was filled with silence, fear, and disbelief. The lone human ship had already shaken the galaxy once, but now the admirals wanted to end it completely. Pride pushed them forward. If they allowed fear to control them, their empires would collapse without a fight. So they gathered everything. The fleets pulled closer, tighter than ever before. Thousands of ships shifted into one massive wall of steel, fire, and energy. Their weapons aligned as one. Their engines roared until even the stars seemed to shake. Never in history had so many fleets fired together. This was no longer a strike. This was a storm. The order came. Fire all weapons. Break the human ship. The void exploded. The combined power of hundreds of worlds surged forward. Beams brighter than suns crossed the darkness. Missiles screamed through the void. Railguns cracked space itself. The combined assault was enough to destroy planets, enough to shatter moons, enough to burn systems. For long minutes, the human vessel disappeared in the flood of fire. Admirals leaned forward, their eyes fixed on the light. Crews shouted in triumph. Pilots cheered inside their cockpits. To them, nothing alive or dead could stand inside that inferno. But when the storm faded, the cheers froze in their throats. The human ship was still there, silent, calm, untouched. Not a single mark scarred its hull. Not a single glow dimmed. It floated in the void, as if nothing had happened. As if the galaxy had done nothing at all. The silence that followed was worse than any weapon. On one bridge, a soldier whispered, "We gave everything." On another, a commander dropped his weapon in despair. Across the fleets, the truth settled. In nothing they had could harm the humans. Then the ship moved. It turned slowly, as though deciding who to strike first. Its black hull pulsed with light, each rhythm louder than before. Space bent, folded, and tore where it passed. The galaxy held its breath. Then it struck. Not with thousands of guns, not with waves of fire. Only with one blow, a single beam of light burst from its hull. It was not plasma, not energy, not any known weapon. It was pure silence turned into force. The beam cut through space itself. Entire fleets vanished in its path. Whole squadrons disappeared in the blink of an eye. Command ships shattered like glass. The strongest defenses of countless empires dissolved as if they were nothing. One strike, and thousands of ships were gone. The admirals screamed orders, but panic spread too fast. Fleets broke formation. Ships fled in every direction. Pilots begged to retreat. Even the bravest warriors felt their courage collapse. Because no one could fight what could not be touched. No one could win against what could erase them with a single gesture. The galaxy had seen war. But this was not war. This was something else. And in that moment, every empire understood. The turning point had come. They were no longer fighting humans. They were surviving humans. The final warning. The battlefield was broken. Where once thousands of fleets had stood proud, now silence stretched across empty space. Wreckage floated, glowing softly in the starlight. Fires burned on shattered hulls. Survivors drifted in fear, waiting for the end they could no longer fight. The lone human ship stood at the center, untouched, calm, glowing with that strange silent power. It had not shouted, it had not rushed, it had not needed to. With a single strike, it had broken the galaxy's pride. The alien admirals sat frozen in their command halls. They were leaders of empires that had ruled for ages, but now their voices shook, their hands trembled. None of them could deny the truth anymore. Humanity had never been weak. Humanity had simply been waiting. Then the ship spoke again. Not with sound. Not with signals, but with thought. Its voice entered every mind across the battlefield. Soldiers, commanders, even civilians watching from distant systems felt it. Cold, calm, clear. You thought we were prey. You thought we were small. You thought numbers would break us. You were wrong. The words burned through their skulls. No one could block them. No one could escape. This is one ship, one voice, one hand raised against you, and you are already broken. The silence that followed was unbearable. The survivors held their breath, afraid even to think. Then the voice returned, sharper than before. Do not test Earth again. Do not bring your wars to our skies. Do not believe your age, your numbers, your pride will protect you. If one ship can end you, imagine what will happen if we send a fleet. The admirals bowed their heads, some wept openly, some tore the metals from their armor. The truth was carved into them now, and it would never leave. The human ship pulsed one last time. Its hull glowed brighter, symbols burning across its surface like stars collapsing. Then, without warning, it was gone. It did not jump. It did not fade. It simply vanished, leaving nothing behind but silence. The battlefield remained. Ruined ships drifted like bones of giants. Survivors whispered in fear, their voices shaking. For the first time in history, the galaxy trembled not from hunger for conquest, but from the weight of a warning. On every world, stories began to spread. Of one human ship. Of a battle where thousands became nothing. Of a message that froze. Empires. The galaxy would never forget. And deep inside, every leader asked themselves the same question. If one human ship could do this, what would happen if Earth sent more?